Earth overtaken, a mysterious dungeon, a talking cat, and an AI with a foot fetish. Hello, crawlers, and welcome to the very first episode of a Dungeon Crawler Carl read-along podcast. I struggle every time.
Every time.
That's okay. You got it.
I feel like the name Dungeon Crawler Carl is just doesn't flow.
My mouth will do that sometimes when there's too much alliteration or things or rhyme, and my brain's going like, "That's not right," and it's like, "No, that was totally right. Shut up!" And then my tongue is all flipped over.
Yeah. I did a good job.
You did.
I'm impressed.
Well, welcome everyone to our very first episode. If you already followed us from our episode 0, we're now in it. We have read the first 10 chapters of the first book. We are now officially in level 1 of the dungeon. I don't know why I did this. Like, I didn't change the room.
Yeah. It was a cue to be nobody behind the cameras.
Yeah, but we're in the book now.
Will you change the setting for each level?
I thought about this. I could change just the light colors.
The colors, yeah.
I was going to have, there's a green screen up here. I was going to have a green screen and, have us in a dungeon.
Well, where I am, I don't
like,
know how different the levels are.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a very first book, and I want to, I wrote it previously that I was going to have Rubio read, I thought, before we get into it. So anyone who is listening and might not really remember where things start and end for chapters 1 through 10 of the first book, this would be a little bit more of a robust recap.
Yeah, we might have a little previously. Is this?
You can do it.
Previously in chapters 1 through 10 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. At 2:23 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday, January 3rd, aliens took over the Earth. All buildings and structures were flattened along with anyone inside. Glowing staircase entrances to a dungeon realm popped up around the world with an offer to humanity. Make it through the 18th floor of the dungeon and reclaim your planet. Carl and his cat, Princess Donut, entered the dungeon, where they found they are now contestants on an intergalactically watched Survivor game show controlled by a seemingly all-powerful AI. They now must fight off and kill a variety of creatures to survive, including goblins, llamas, and plenty of stomped-on rats and cockroaches. They encounter a large rat creature game guide in a tutorial guild named Mordecai, who explains the rules of the game and what they must do to survive. Donut gains sentience after eating a magical pet biscuit, and her and Carl team up to kill. And Carl gets a sweet toe ring.
And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at.
Okay. I think a lot of that stuff you mentioned happens before we get to chapter 11. I mean, after.
No. All of this happens up through chapter 10. So chapter 10 is kind of them just going around and stomping a bunch of things.
Martin made a mistake and just kept driving down the road of the book.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was on the phone with Martin. And I was like, so you read up through chapter 10? You're like, it went a little bit further. I went to chapter 12. And then 10 minutes ago, you're like, maybe I went to chapter 22.
But we're only talking through to chapter. We're going to finish at the end of chapter 10 in our discussion today.
Yes.
Which is
fine.
Right when they get to that room with the Spanish writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, starting there, what do you think?
This is kind of awkward. I didn't like the book.
Really? So far?
Yeah. It was, it's so fantastical, and I didn't have anything to ground it to. And I go just from the stuff I read, it's a bit more grounded, or at least something I can attach myself to.
Mm-hmm.
Intergalactic people come and flatten the Earth, and they're thrown into a dungeon. But the biggest thing was that I didn't really get to know Carl as a person going into it. He's just a 27-year-old dude with muscles who loves cats, and he's thrown into this thing. And I was like, I don't really know this guy. And the reader, his choice to read him as doing a Patrick Warburton impression really put me off.
Right.
I was like, all right, he's a 27-year-old guy who speaks like Patrick Warburton. Like, we've never even seen a 27-year-old Patrick Warburton.
He's been 27 before.
but not in the public eye.
Right.
I was like, okay, it's hard for me to get my head in the within a 27-year-old person, in as much as my daughter's 27, and I have nothing in common with her and her friends. But him reading it sounded like Patrick Warburton. I was like, why would you do this? I don't even have a frame of reference for it. But hey, I'm on the show. I guess I'll keep reading.
No. You're in for this. Is such a good prank. This book series we hate, actually, and we totally got you.
Well, the thing is, I can tell you all this, but before I knew it, I was at chapter 22, and I was like, all right, I'm kind of following. I want to see what happens. So yeah, early on, it was. I honestly, I was just like, when am I going to tell these dudes that this book is not for me?
It's fine. If it's not for you, it is fine. But let me just I'm maybe going to say that you're going to learn a lot more about him as a character as the series progresses. You will become far more invested in all of the characters as they gain dimension, because one of the problems with the first book, and something that I've heard from a few people that I've bought this book for several people. And a lot of them are like, this is kind of cool. It might not be for me. It's a little superficial. But as it moves on, it does get a lot more rounded, and there are a lot more interesting dimensions to the characters. And like, for instance, when I first read the book, or when I first listened to the book, I did the audiobook first. I didn't like Princess Donut at all. She was annoying.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
This whole time I've been like, well, John likes this book because he loves cats. and I am not a fan of cats.
No.
I'm not a fan of cats either.
Okay. No, I love cats. I've got 4 cats.
Yeah.
I didn't like...
I love your cats.
I think I agreed with Carl when there's a scene in the book where Princess Donut is talking to him, and he's really annoying the hell out of him. And he says, okay, stop. I'm going to go this way. You're going to go that way. The only reason that you guys are even still alive on the planet Earth is because we haven't killed you, because you guys don't talk. You're talking. I hate you. I'm going to go do my thing. And at that moment, there's a really nice little character moment where Donut is like, I need you. Like, I'm scared here. Like, this is kind of freaking me out.
You are absolutely right. That was the moment when I stopped hating Donut.
Right.
I wrote it down there too. The big story change happens in chapter 8, and that's when Donut actually makes both her and Carl a little bit more of having personas. I can't say people or humans, whatever, but it humanizes both of them, because it's actually an earnest moment, and it's been so silly up until that point.
But let's get back real quick and just talk about what happens in the beginning, right? So Carl, he's at his girlfriend's house. They live together, but it's pretty much her house. The cat has its own room. It's a show cat. And they have this room that's like dedicated to all the awards the cat's won. And the girlfriend's out at the Bahamas. And Carl doesn't know that she's with her boyfriend, or her ex-boyfriend, until he sees a photo of them together on Instagram. And he breaks up with her over the phone.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah. And she's like really strict about her place. And one of the things that she understandably doesn't like is Carl smoking in the house. That was like a rule. But he's like, oh, she's a jerk. I'm going to smoke in this house the whole rest of the time I'm here. So he like goes up to his room, opens up the window. It's cold outside. He doesn't want to go downstairs. Just another excuse for him to smoke in the house. And he starts smoking a cigarette, and Donut decides she wants to go on an adventure, and she jumps out the window. And Carl isn't wearing any clothes. Like, he's got his boxers on, and he decides to go after the cat won't come up and back into the apartment just by him calling out. So he gets like his girlfriend's Crocs on, these pink Crocs, and he puts his jacket on. He goes outside. And at that point, I think his neighbor like starts screaming out the window.
Yeah.
And mid-sentence, any kind of structure with an interior crunches down to the ground and flattens. and the neighbor's head comes rolling out into the street. But everything as far as the eye could see has just been flattened to the ground. And that's kind of like the setup of the story.
It all crunches into the ground, and then the elements that got crunched in get repurposed into elements of a dungeon, which you'll see continues to evolve as you go through the story.
Right.
It's a wacky premise, and on top of that, there's a lot of wacky elements to have to push past in this first book.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not very familiar with a lot of like LitRPG books. This falls into that category, right?
Yes.
I have read a few, and a lot of them, it is a bit of a headache, kind of dealing with what you have to do within the structure of that type of book to do world building, which I think is what ends up being a little bit of a turnoff. And I was kind of I was reminded, because this is my second time doing a listen through after just finally getting through book 7, finding out how radically different this first book is in how the characters sound, in joke delivery, in the immaturity, I guess, of how the author writes this first book versus how the growth of characters and everything gets nurtured as it goes along.
Yeah, because the book,
it's remarkable.
It has all the wacky stuff, but it's amusing, but not funny. Like, if it was funny, I could go like, all right, this is a comedy book. I can get with it. But it's like, well, these things are, I mean, they kind of, but they're not real jokes. They're not making me laugh.
It's a bad llama who sells drugs outside of to girls outside of a convenience store.
I gotta say, that was the first part of the book that made me laugh, was when they, because they run into those goblins at first.
Yeah.
And it's a very like, oh, here's a scene from Labyrinth, the way it should have played out in Labyrinth. Or like a scene that we've all come in contact with if we're running a D&D campaign with our friends. You know, there's that encounter with goblins and a big murder machine, and it goes the way those things go. It's just crazy and wacky and whatever. And but then at some point, like they turn down a hall, and Donut sees something in the distance that Carl can't see, so she shoots it with a couple magic missiles, and then it's still coming after. It's big, sees eyes coming over, and she shoots it again, and it finally comes into the light. And it's just a big llama. And the way the interface introduces that mob to him is just, the thing's called Bad Llama, and it's a llama, but it's bad. And then like they fight, and he ends up killing it. And the loot it drops is like raw llama meat, some llama skin, and a baggie of meth.
You're right.
That's the moment that made me laugh the first time in the book.
I feel like even that part, because I got sold on this book by you, because I was coming off of a couple other books that were kind of stinkers for me.
Oh yeah.
And their jokes weren't hitting, and you kept describing these moments in this book, and it's one thing to like hear you describe it and me go, huh?
Yeah.
This isn't funny to me because I haven't read through and had the build up. I do think that the bad llama part, just because of like how over the top all the other descriptions were, just being like, it's a llama and it's bad. The laziness, I guess, of that descriptor, I was just like, all right, that's kind of amusing.
Yeah.
But not all of these are hitting yet for me. Like, as I've gone through and listened to this first part of the book, I totally see where you're coming from.
Yes.
Where
okay.
And this is why I think I prefaced on our episode 0 of like, hey, it's going to sound like Patrick Warburton.
Yeah.
And things are a little bit silly initially, but there's a lot of work I think has to go into constructing what this guy's constructing so that it hits the ground running later. Like with each successive book, you don't need all that preamble.
And he also starts sounding less like Patrick Warburton in the second book. And I'd argue in the third book, he doesn't sound like him at all anymore.
And that is actually, you guys telling me that has been propelling me through it. But even where I am right now, he sounds less like it than when he started. And let me ask you something. So
Go ahead.
it's Jeff Haley or Healy?
Jeff Hayes.
Jeff Hayes, who's doing the voices. Is he doing the voice of Princess Donut
He does
too?
all of the voices except for, I think in book 3 is when they have their first guest voice. And it's just for a small bit role of maybe like 10 lines.
Okay, if he's doing the voice of Carl and Princess Donut.
And Mordecai and like everybody.
Like most of them, I can go like, all right, they don't sound alike, but same guy. But the female voices, I was like, this is this same dude.
The fact his range, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it also makes me go like, why'd you pick the Patrick Warburton voice? You could do so many. Why this one?
That's going to make you more frustrated as the books go on when you're like, why was that the choice in the beginning?
Yeah.
I know. It's one of those things where I think, man, I want him to like go back and reread this first book again. And now that he's like developed where these voices like evolve to.
Well, the other thing that frustrated me was he mispronounces Yakima he says Yakima.
Oh.
He said, I looked across toward Yakima and saw all these things.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah. I think he says Yakima twice.
It's funny because, like you guys listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah.
And so often, even the best narrators, they have one or two words that they mispronounce all the time.
I have mentioned, I think in our episode 0, that this is like one of my favorite series, which also for me got off to a kind of a rocky start.
Mhm.
By the end of the first book, I was kind of like, yeah, I want to see where the second one goes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
This is kind of cool. But also the narrator is easily my favorite narrator of all time in audiobooks. And that's something that was earned over the next few books. So
yeah,
I see that.
Yeah.
It is another element that you see that he must love these characters, how invested he is and how he really puts so much more pathos into them. Like he grows as not just like a narrator, but as an actor as he goes through these books. It is jarring, and I would love to play for you guys an audio clip that shows the difference from this book to book 7. And magically, we have headphones on now.
yeah, it's a miracle.
Look at that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and play this, and this will be the first part is going to be book 1. And so you'll hear how Princess Donut, Carl, and the AI sound. And then we're going to jump all the way up to book 7. I don't think I'm really spoiling anything with the brief clips I have here.
Okay.
But then you can hear.
There it is. Go get it. Donut said. In the moment it was lit up by the pulse blast, I could distinctly see what it was. I got a good enough view for the info box to pop up. Bad llama. Level 3. It's a llama, but it's bad. God damn it, Donut! I cried. Donut asked, scoffing. He returned to my shoulder, shaking with rage.
Mongo is most certainly not your father. And when did you start to talk?
The notice over him said his name was Panford, adjutant for the Democratic Sortion. The alien he was speaking to was a giant, fuzzy thing. He was a good 7 feet tall and looked like an upright caterpillar.
Commander Stockade, level 76 phase sorcerer, warlord of the Democratic Sortion.
And there we go.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is a significant difference. I find it very jarring to come back to this book and hear how he talks like Patrick Warburton. I can't do an impersonation like that.
Donut sounds older.
She's
Which she may be, but the 7th book. Yeah, the Warburton stuff is way played down. Sounds more like our friend Jason Murphy than anyone else.
He sounds a lot like Jason Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the AI, I had forgotten how irritated I was by the voice of the AI. I was like, yeah, I might not like the Carl thing, but the AI, god damn, every time it comes on, I feel like my ears bleed. That's so much better.
Yeah.
the AI. I don't want to say too much, but the AI is quite a character in the book, and
also gains a lot of depth.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The AI gains a lot.
Okay.
Of depth.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I think it's already interesting that we see right up front that the AI has a foot fetish.
Oh yeah.
And how this manifests is
that happens in the first 10 chapters within the scope of where we are. he kind of reveals a bit of a foot fetish.
And you could
Does this mean Carl's never going to get shoes?
It does.
Yeah, okay.
It makes me wonder what happened to those pink Crocs, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Like, are those on a shrine for some weird shit for the AI?
Maybe.
Yeah, I kept thinking that he still had them, but then I checked, John, I checked your drawing. I was like, no, I guess he doesn't.
No, at some point, I think it was with either Bad Llama or the Murder Dozer, where he takes off running and he kicks him off. Like, they just fall off of him. Yeah, so he loses them really early in the book.
But the manifestation of this foot fetish, it's not simply that the AI is like, oh, that's my fetish, the foot thing. It's also the stomping.
Yeah.
And that then he realizes that there's a value to him stomping, getting experience. And he's like, oh, the AI must be giving me creatures that are stompable because it wants me stomping.
Because one thing that Donut clues into really early is, hey, maybe you shouldn't get shoes because it might help us in the long run. Like, if the AI is running this thing and he likes to see you, or or whatever, he, she, they likes to see you stomping on these things, maybe that'll give us a little edge. You know, remember when the stats were handed out and Donut took that pet biscuit, she ended up stronger, smarter, and like leagues more charismatic than Carl.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also it plays to the strength of how you can write two different characters that are going to have a the trajectory of both of them working together is going to be beneficial, because she already has a extreme understanding of the gamesmanship of this. She talks about watching daytime TV, and you'll find that she's a big fan of stuff like Gilmore Girls, that she understands narrative drama. And she's already, like, in the first 10 chapters trying to be like, we need to do something spectacular to get eyes on us, because that's going to help us survive.
Sure.
And she's a show cat. Like, she lives her life under the lights. You know, like, this is a performer.
It's a lot of the two of them, and you're reading, waiting for them to click into, hey, I can learn from you and you can learn from me.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that has to take time to be earned. I don't remember. Like, I know you're much further now than me, and you know what happens in like the next 10 chapters. I don't recall that. So I'm not sure how long that takes to evolve. But I do think that, like, it's interesting, even in the beginning, you start seeing like all the foreshadowing, I guess, of where these characters are going to grow and evolve. What do you think of Mordecai?
Mordecai's cool.
Mordecai's cool.
Yeah. I mean, he's the first person to come in and kind of explain to Carl, i.e. explain to us what's going on and what the rules are.
Right.
But so far we've been thrown in, and even though I know it's not random, it seems random. Like what's going on? What should I be doing? Like, especially me as somebody who doesn't play RPGs, like, how does this work? So he comes in, it's like, oh, thank you, Mordecai.
Yeah, he gives a really good explanation of everything, like all the mechanics.
He does a really good info dump without it feeling that ponderous.
Right. I know that some of the people that I've read leave comments online, like on Reddit, say that without that character in the beginning, I turned my mom onto the book, she would have no idea what the hell was going on. But because that character was there, she knew exactly what was going on and how to kind of navigate herself through the book.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a real smart character.
Mordecai was easily my favorite character when I first checked in with you after starting into this book and going, you're like, what do you think? I'm like, I really like Mordecai. I think that was my first comment.
Because he's a utility character, but he's also just really well written. Like, he's so fun to read.
I think that how he's written right off the bat, he's very jaded by his experience, and that just like carries through in every little bit of dialogue, every little nugget we get from the character, it speaks to him having a really rough history with the dungeon
Yeah.
that just made me more interested in what is this world that's being built here and what more could we kind of excavate.
He says a lot,
Mhm.
but there's a lot in what he doesn't say.
Right.
So it's like thank God you're here. Yes, you're explaining things in a way I can understand, but you've also said some little things that make me go, what's your story?
You
Right.
got to
And-
get
and
your
what-
mother's ashes.
Yeah, what aren't you telling me?
Yeah, he's got his mother's ashes in an urn. He's got a bunch of photos of bird people on his wall, but
He's a changeling.
he's a
Yes.
rat, but he's a changeling. So every time, every time a new level collapses, he changes form and becomes something different deeper into the dungeon.
Mhm.
He's 3 weeks away from retirement.
Yeah, that
It's such a good trope.
He's
This guy-
he's Murtaugh from
Yeah,
the
I'm
Lethal
like-
Weapon
I'm
series.
like, this guy's gonna die. Don't say you're that far away from retirement. You're dead. The amount of death, I mean, like we see the world, like everyone that's in a building get flattened.
Mhm.
But then we also quickly see that like 13 million people have entered
Mhm.
the dungeon, and within the first hour, it's already down to 10 million. So like 3 million people are just dead like that. I think the scope and weight of that gets kind of glossed over initially, and I feel like later on in the book, and maybe it's a matter of like Carl's got a lot of shit going on. He can't really focus on the weight of that. But the scale of that is still just like, I don't know. It was funny how that was just like written as an aside almost.
And there are little moments where you kind of get an idea of how Carl is dealing with this, in that he's talking about the difference between intelligence and wisdom,
Mhm.
and how like his buddy, who's dumb as hell, went over and peed on a bike in front of a cop, and then he kind of stops and goes, that guy's dead.
Right.
That guy's dead. And then he kind of just pushes that away. And he's like, I'll deal with that later. You
Sure.
know? So you can kind of see a little bit of Carl's coping mechanism there. And, maybe that's part of why we also don't get the impact of like literally 3 million people dying in the first 40 minutes of him being in the dungeon,
Well, that's what 3 million people dying in the first minute from 3 out of 13 million.
Mhm.
But let's not forget the several billion who died just
Yeah.
in the initial, I guess attack or phase of this whole thing.
And maybe some people were like his girlfriend were in Hawaii when it all went down. Maybe they're just chilling in Hawaii, right? They'd be like, I'm not going to go in the dungeon. I'm kind of in paradise.
But
I guess I'll learn to
did,
fish.
they did also make some allusions to like some people were outside of the buildings when they collapsed,
Mhm.
but chose to not go in the dungeon.
Right.
Sure.
So there's a population of people out there that has been alluded to as well.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't 2 a.m. everywhere.
Right.
Some people were maybe out and about, going about the daily grind.
So the people who don't go in the dungeon, they aren't killed?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Might be beyond the scope of our talk today.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Fair
Another
enough.
thing that it tends to be a trope in these kind of stories and is that you never see the characters like go to the bathroom or know how food works. And I like that in the first 10 chapters, we get both of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we see how food works, and we also see that every bathroom is the same bathroom.
Yeah.
It's literally like a portal to the same
Oh, yeah.
bathroom, because he does this test where he like dips a piece of toilet paper in the toilet and closes the bathroom door, and then they move somewhere else and he opens up the bathroom door there, and the interior of that room in that other location is the same bathroom.
That's awful. That means that like he has to clean his own bathroom every time.
That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
I just want to wreck shop and then bounce, man.
I mean, but I do like that they took care of things. They're like, all right, before we had everybody pissing and shitting in the hallways. So no more of that.
But when they stop doing that, because it's gross.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what Mordecai said.
Yeah.
But then you also learn how food works. And like, fucking Jack Bauer. You never saw him eat or go to the bathroom in that show 24. It's like he would you're running around. Where's your bathroom break? I guess that's when it was our bathroom break. Maybe he was also running to the bathroom.
Yeah, right.
Whenever it's
when
commercial
you
break.
paused it and went to the bathroom, so did I.
Okay. I guess.
Weren't you on the roof of a car? Yeah, but I stopped and
I rolled over, took a piss behind the car. I'm good. So another thing that we learn is that there are 18 levels to this dungeon machination. And yet humans have, or not humans, any crawlers that have ever participated in these games have only made it past up to level 13. In fact, I think it says only one person's ever made it to 13.
Of all the crawlers.
Of all the crawlers.
It happened to be a human from a human-seeded world, but nobody in the history of the dungeon crawl has made it past level 13.
Which is something that I still kind of question. Like, just so you know where we're at, we're not at level 13 yet.
okay.
And it makes me go, well, what are those? And how do you get through them? Especially as we're also facing it's 5 days for level 1. What, 10 days for the second one? It keeps growing.
Yeah.
Is it months and months and months?
Years.
Like a year by the time you're at level 8,
Yeah,
17,
compounded interest.
16?
Yeah, it would be. But don't you think how much work did you guys put on those other levels, like level
That nobody's
15
thinking.
that nobody ever gets to go to?
Have you made this too difficult? Isn't there drama to be mined?
Are you still maintaining it, or is it just full of cobwebs now?
Because, and this is something I don't want to spoil too much, but it does seem like there's other gameplay that occurs at later levels. I guess that doesn't involve crawlers. I just don't understand that. I think still, even book 7, I'm not sure how all that works, but maybe you have a better. Maybe we will have to discuss this.
Yeah, why are you
on
talking
our
about this right
Patreon
now?
minis?
Yeah, yeah. We're going to stick around after this and record a little Patreon thing.
So that means that if you go to patreon.com/hellocrawlers, you can become a patron. You can see some bonus content where Ruby and I are going to do a little bit more of a deep crawl.
Yeah, and that's for people who maybe this is your second time going through the book. Grant and I are going to talk about stuff as people who have gone through the whole series before and spoil whatever comes forward. Because you guys have read it. Some of you guys have read it. And maybe that interests you.
So with this, where do you anticipate the rest of the story going?
Well, I anticipate them going down levels, leveling up, meeting more crawlers.
Yeah, because they haven't run into anybody yet.
Yeah, not so far.
Yeah.
Not so far. So it's all going to be about how they interact with the other crawlers and coming across people who are not crawlers who either are going to help them or are going to say they are but actually aren't.
Well, if The Walking Dead taught me anything, I think all those interactions are going to go fine. It's going to be. They're going to run into other people and they're going to get along. Everyone's going to team up.
If it goes the way most stories go, they'll have a point where they'll get mad at each other and break apart and then have a reason to get back together.
It's like this really bleak view of humanity is so pervasive in these survival dramas. And I kind of also think when it's us versus them being aliens or them being zombies or what have you, would we kind of team up? I don't know.
We might.
No, we went through COVID.
Oh, yeah.
We just ate each other.
Yeah, that's true.
And people just literally ate each other.
That's true. There was always the prevailing theory that we would band together over a common enemy.
Yeah.
And then COVID came and it's like, no, you won't. No,
it's literally The Walking Dead. It's literally they got it right in all those Walking Dead movies. 28 Days Later, they all got it right.
They got it right. Yeah.
I keep wanting to be an optimist about this, but maybe you're right.
That'll be the death of you.
Yeah. So I believe that we are restructuring our plan for what episode 2 will be. I think instead of going up to chapter 20, which you've already passed, we're going to go up through the end of Act 1, which I believe is it the beginning of chapter 28 or the end?
I'm not sure. Let me see.
Oh, do you gonna pull out a big old book you have there?
Well, I have it here on my phone. I wrote
It's
chapter
actually-
28. We're gonna finish at the end of chapter 27.
Okay.
Chapter 28 is when Act 2 starts. We're gonna the next episode will be from where we left off here to the end of Act 1.
Okay.
So I'm sure you, dear viewer / listener, are being very respectful, unlike Martin, and really following the rules and going
It's not my fault.
right up the chapter.
I didn't mean to.
You had to keep listening until it got relatively good.
Yes.
I do think I do have some optimism about the fact that the one guy right now who's just not sure he likes the book just blew past the assignment and went like double the length.
Right, that is good.
Yeah.
We do want to also once again advertise that we're doing Patreon. We're not trying to be like, oh, we gotta get that money, but we did think it would be fun that like we could have not only a discussion about the main book, but then put more of a spoiler discussion over there. That's a little bit shorter form. Just chat between Rubio and I there, and then there's tiers if you guys do want to help support the show. You can just become a benefactor, a crawler, what did I put? A leaderboard. And then the other one, man, I wish I remember what the acronym was. It's for a game show thing that you'll see. Anyway, you can, if you join at that really extreme, ridiculous tier, we'll find creative ways to kill you off each episode that we record.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we want to go ahead and stop here and say thank you guys for checking us out. And do we have a sign off?
No, we don't have a sign off. We tried doing one last time and it just didn't work.
I'm actually at chapter 30.
Get out there and read.